when we're live.
Okay, great. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much. We need to first call to order and roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Mr. Guzman and Mr. Curry notified the superintendent that they would not be able to attend to be in attendance at tonight's meeting. May I have a motion to allow Mr. Guzman and Mr. Curry to participate by phone for tonight's meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? A roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. When we do, Mrs. Moak, do we need to redo the roll call? Yes, we do. Roll call, please, then.
Here.
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 Here. Thank you. Mr. Lobach, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the
And
republic,
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we will begin this evening's meeting with our reports, and we'll start with our superintendent report. Dr. Kaskowski, please.
All righty. So first up is the administrator and teacher salary and benefits report for 1920. As you may recall from last year, these are reports that we're required to make available on our website annually. Anyone have any, I know you had this to review, but any questions for Mrs. Conlon? No. Okay.
Thank you.
And the next item is the IMRF employees over $75,000 for the 1920 school year. Again, this is an annual report that we're required to post on our website. Next, we're going to move into return to school plan update. As of Friday, we had a tentative update, and it was confirmed on Monday that DuPage County remains in orange or moderate classification for transmission risk. We will continue to monitor and provide a more detailed update on the metrics at the next board workshop meeting. Last Friday, Pratt member Katie Aducci and District 41 nurse Maureen Walgren and myself recorded a training video for District 41 staff. The video provided a detailed overview of PPE, what, when, and how to use it, along with safety precautions specific to different scenarios and people's roles. We also provided information for staff members who work in closer proximity than 6 feet with students who have more significant needs. The video link, along with a resource document and a 43-page FAQ, was sent out today to all staff. On 10/14 in the morning, we will be welcoming Bonnie Jordan, the Executive Director of the Philip Brock Center. Bonnie's going to join us virtually to share information on how the Rock Center has successfully navigated the pandemic since March of 2020. Bonnie's an inspirational leader at the Rock Center. For anybody who's heard her talk, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And she's willing to share with us what they have learned over the last several months to help our staff feel prepared and more confident in their ability to work with students who have higher needs while maintaining safety precautions and while using higher levels of PPE. As of today's update, we have 76% of our students on blended and 23% on remote as a district. Mrs. Conlon hopes to finish up with the staffing meetings by the end of this week so that principals can start making any final adjustments to student and teacher assignments and do any necessary hiring. Daily self-certification for students. I want to take every opportunity to be very direct and transparent regarding the importance of daily self-certification. Parents will be able to complete the self-certification process through Skyward or through the Skyward app. If you are completing the process for one student, the app is easier. If you're completing the process for multiple children, doing it on a computer is easier. We will follow, similar to other local districts, a 3-strike rule. If you fail to perform the daily self-certification 3 times, your child or children will be moved into the remote program. Parents will get a daily robocall reminder at 7 a.m. until this becomes part of their new routine. So we're going to do everything that we can to help parents and guardians remember to do this in the morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage all of our families to opt in to receive text messages from District 41. This will allow us to send timely information and reminders directly to parents by text message. Regarding the daily self-certification, something that works for me and many other people is to set a daily alarm on my phone to complete my self-certification. We really hope that we do not find ourselves in the position of having to move any student to the remote program, but this is totally in the hands of the parents and guardians. So we will be reminding people and communicating this often and throughout our shift. This is the part that we absolutely control the least, but it is something that we have to require and we have to uphold. I'd also like to congratulate the D41 board for their recognition from the Illinois Association of School Boards. I'm not going to steal Mr. Estes' thunder. I know he'll be speaking about this later. I also get the pleasure of recognizing Board Vice President Jason Lobach for earning the status of Master Board Member. Master
smiling.
Master Board Member points are earned by attending IASB division meetings, governing meetings, legislative leadership programs, as well as holding positions of leadership within the association. A designated number of Master Board Member points are assigned to each event, activity, or position. In order to achieve Master Board Member status, 200 points must be earned. On behalf of IASB, Jason is being acknowledged with a Master Board Member pin. Thank you to Jason and to all District 41 board members for your service.
Well done. Very nice, Jason.
Well
Very
done.
well done.
Oh, I don't even have a pen. Pete.
Another pin. Oh, we have a pin.
I
Okay,
didn't
we're
wear
gonna
a pin
take a minute.
today, so this
We
is
have a-
exciting.
We have a pin wearing ceremony.
There you go.
Woohoo!
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Okay.
Wonderful. You earned
Thank
it.
you.
Thank-
And that's
job,
it for my report tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Board members, if you have questions, any follow-up to particular Melissa's return to school plan. Julie, any questions?
No, thanks.
Master Board Member Lobach, any questions, comments?
No, I think I've mastered it. No, not right now. I'd be interested to see what comes out of that raw session. That'll be
That'll be,
good training.
yeah. Ted, how about yourself?
No questions.
Guillermo, how about you? Any questions for Dr. Keskowski?
No questions right now. Thank you.
Okay. Bruce, any questions for Dr. Keskowski? All right, hearing none.
No, not at this moment.
Thank you, Bruce. And Jessica, any questions?
I mean, gosh, nobody had one, so I have to come up with one.
And I will share the video with all the board members for your viewing pleasure. They humored me and let me participate in the training video. So I did some Q&A during their slide transitions.
Is the FAQ for staff something that you could share with board members as well?
You know, I'm gonna say they were specific staff questions. Let me investigate.
Yeah, I feel like we get a lot of questions, so,
We
and I don't always know the answers because
Mhm.
they're more, they're more operational people are concerned with than what we might know. So, and then can you just speak briefly about our special education students and how they're doing?
Mhm. Well, that would really be a question for
Not
Laurel.
specifically.
That would be a question for Laurel. I guess in terms of, I know special education students will get their feedback through their IEP meetings and things like that and be in contact. Can you kind of detail the ways in which we're communicating with our special education parents?
Right. Again, that would come either through Laurel's department or directly through the case manager. All students who receive services, it's been translated into what's called an IRLP. So a remote, an individual remote learning plan. And so they will receive their progress updates based on that plan until the time when we're back in and those plans are no longer needed. So anything more specific than that, we would need to ask Laurel to give an update.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Jess. All right, we'll move on to board reports. And let me kind of go down the line again here. Jason, any board report, please?
Yeah, I submitted one and did not submit another. I attended the Illinois, what is it? The Illinois Integration and Alignment Committee meeting in mid-September. When was this? September 2nd, not even mid-September. September 2nd. And I attended, there was a couple different updates and some breakout sessions regarding some funding things that were coming up regarding COVID and some return to school issues. And we broke into small groups. We had a lot of conversations that frankly were over my head and educational for me. And I enjoyed being a fly on the wall because I learned a lot of different perspectives and things that I hadn't really had the capacity to consider before, specifically regarding the Preschool for All grant and how services are delivered from birth to 5, and the state's focus on that during this pandemic. I also had the opportunity to attend PTA Council, probably also in early September, that I did not submit a board report for. There was a lot of housekeeping matters that went on, and I appreciate them inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. Guillermo, let me turn to you if you have any board report.
No, nothing to report right now.
Okay, thank you much. Jessica, any board reports from you?
Just to report out that the Glenbard Parent Series is hosting our community read with Jason Reynolds. The book is Long Way Down, as well as Stamped Racism, Anti-Racism and You, and that's on Tuesday, September 29th at 7 p.m. And then Tara Costa Howard is going to be hosting a discussion the following evening. So if you want to get in on both events or hear you can't make Tuesday night and you can listen in on the discussion on Wednesday, those are 2 options for you. And we're
Okay.
grateful for that program.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you very much. Julie, any board reports from you?
I do. I have a few, actually, again. So my first one is the LEN DEI committee meeting. Attended virtually on September 15th.
Julie, can you just explain what the DEI committee is actually?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you.
So the LEN, it's a newly formed committee. It's beginning to clarify their purpose and mission to advance equity in Illinois public schools. And while we do that, they will be sending out a quick survey to all LEND member districts to assess their needs and their equity statuses. This information will help them understand exactly what our schools need, so we can work on their behalf. And Jessica was also there. And as I understand, I think Guillermo is also on the committee, but he was not able to attend. And if I can successfully navigate technology, do the next one.
I would also point out, I think that committee is made up of maybe 7 or 8 people, and District 41 has 3 members on that
I
committee.
think there are more than that now, but yeah,
So
D41 does have 3 of us.
Good.
But I think there are more.
You think it's
What
expanded?
do you think, Jess?
There weren't that many on the call, so I don't
No.
know.
I don't know. Okay, you might be right.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay,
I didn't count. Sorry.
I'm counting.
Okay, so I also attended the LEND meeting on, I think it was Friday, on the 25th. Again, I can't scroll. Okay, so here's a quick rundown. Recent discussions in Springfield include property tax relief, which I know is important in this community without affecting schools. So that means that the state has to spend more money. They're going to hold off on that discussion until the pandemic is mostly resolved. Serious question, like why can't I scroll? Is it me? Is it Google? It's like,
It's the opposite direction.
oh, I know, I'm like trying whatever, it's not moving. Okay, here, nah,
Do you want my iPad?
good grief, I don't know.
So your laptop physically, you're not able.
I need a technology tutor. No, it's okay, it's moving a little bit now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. Same
just
problem
if
last
you want.
time. I'll never be able to find it, thanks
It's a
so.
touch screen.
Okay, so upcoming discussions include Black Caucus and Latino Caucus will partner to actively respond to racial unrest in the country, the state, surrounding communities, and have hearings on public safety and education. They are also looking at more equitable funding for early childhood and higher education. Senate Education Committee hearings regarding kindergarten through 12th grade COVID response and equitable funding. And Leader Willis in the General Assembly also noted that private and parochial schools received a lot of public federal money for COVID relief. And then a quick federal update, just because they mentioned it, and I'll skip over that in my further reports. The House approved the budget to keep the government working through December. Education funding is held flat. Okay, hold on, technology. And I attended a Ben Franklin PTA meeting. Membership on their, what is it called? Member Hub or something?
Mhm.
It's a little low this year, which actually to me is like not that surprising because everything is crazy. A lot of the usual clubs are organizing virtually. They have sent out like virtual running club schedules and that kind of stuff. So they're trying to do what they can do virtually. They did send home in the K2 supply packets a bear hunt for Ben Franklin. So those kids should have them if they want to decorate them or create their own bear or put their favorite bear in the window. It's just so the community, the other kids in the neighborhood can walk around and find the bears. Literary Pumpkins will still be happening. It'll all be online. You'll get information about that. You can add Ben Franklin to Amazon Smile to help fundraise, and they will be doing the coat drive again. And then lastly, and a little bit scattered because this meeting was at 5 o'clock.
Did it? Oh,
So I attended a webinar about the new resolution process because for obvious reasons, it will not be at the AAA conference downtown Chicago because you cannot have a conference in this environment. So they're going to do two virtual meetings, like on a Zoom for the delegates only on October the 21st and November 5th. And that's where the delegates will have a chance to talk about the resolutions they've introduced and ask questions to other people about their resolutions. How would this work? What do you think of this? And the actual delegate assembly will be on Saturday, November 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning. But you have to register as the delegate, and the delegate's the only person that can attend, unless like you want somebody standing behind you or something, I don't know, it's just so they only have the one vote.
right.
You don't want to, cheat. What else? My notes are sort of crazy. Oh, I think that's mostly it. Our resolution is in the book. The book is out. It's definitely available online. They said the actual physical books will be mailed, so I don't know if D41 has received them yet or not. But they are available for you online, for the public online at iasb.com. I think that wraps me.
And Julie, you will be bringing to the board a summary of those resolutions with your recommendation as to how the board should direct you to vote as the delegate.
I will. I was going to ask at the end of the meeting about putting that on our schedule,
All right.
so I'll hang on.
We
to
will get to that.
But I'm set. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then just one more follow-up, Julie, and then we talked before about bringing your proposed resolution forward. You still be able to do that in the virtual
Yep,
environment?
it's in the book.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yep. They did not recommend us.
Well, I remember you said
discuss
not
previously.
recommended, but I remember you said
So
there
we
was
did
a
appeal.
process.
Yep,
Right.
we did appeal. So we are in here. We will have an opportunity to make our case. I think I will have the opportunity to make our case. And then they will vote on whether or not the resolution, my do not adopt resolution should be considered. And then they will vote, if that vote is a yes vote, majority +1, they will then hold another vote to say whether or not they want to pass it.
Got it.
So it's a consideration to consider and then a vote to adopt or not. But there's only like 8 or 9 or something, not very many this year. There were like 13 last year. And notably, there are no resolutions to arm teachers. So that made me happy too.
Okay. Thank you,
So,
Julie.
all right.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
All right. Bruce, do you have any board reports you'd like to present this evening?
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you very much, Bruce. And Mr. Estes?
All right, so earlier this month, on September 8th, I attended the Lincoln PTA meeting. That was my first time at the Lincoln PTA. I don't know if there's normally that many people. There were a lot of people on that Zoom call. I was impressed.
There was a good number.
Yeah.
There was more, yeah.
A lot of administrative detail, installation of new officers. They discussed the limited fundraising efforts that they'll be doing this year because of the
Right,
COVID
right.
restrictions. And they touched on some of the restricted activities that they'll be sponsoring throughout the year and how some of that'll work. It sounds very similar to what was discussed at Ben Franklin in terms of some things being done virtually and whatnot. And then, as Dr. Kay hinted, every year the IASB recognizes school boards that have engaged in activities and modeled behaviors that lead to excellence in local school governance in support of quality education. And to anyone's knowledge, the District 41 school board has never received this recognition. And I will note that both District 89 and District 87, the other two Glen Ellyn school districts, received that recognition last year. The criteria for recognition includes many things that District 41 has or has been, had been or has been doing for quite some time. A formal process for evaluating the superintendent, regular policy reviews, an orientation procedure for new board members, a mission vision statement with a set of district goals, monitoring those goals, and regularly engaging with the community. One very important piece on which this board has worked hard in the last year or so is that of professional development in order to be a strong team of 8. And I'm happy to announce that this year, District 41 is one of the 15 that will be recognized this year at the IASB DuPage District meeting this fall. This is a 2-year recognition program, and I expect this board to be working together to be recognized again in 2022.
Thank you, Ted. Congratulations to all of my board colleagues, both in person and on the Zoom, for the very strong governance practices and the very intentionality that you bring to the job, particularly to professional development in helping the district through a very difficult time. To be honored during this period, I think really demonstrates the high level of efficiency in which the board is governing. And I also want to especially thank Ted, who really did shepherd the proposal through, responded to a bunch of questions. It sounded as if it was simply just a couple of short, brief answers to questions. It was a bit more than that, and it took a little bit of research and finding some links.
It took quite a lot of time, actually. There were, they wanted a fair amount of detail. I may have been overly detailed, but I wanted to make a good case.
Well, if there's anybody that can do well in providing the detail, it is certainly Mr. Estes on this board. So thank you, Ted.
Bob, is it all right if I add a couple?
Oh, yeah, you should,
PTA
please.
things?
Yes.
Just, I wanted to thank the Abe Lincoln PTA also for, they already had one virtual event, and it was a Pro Kids show that you could watch on, I think it was Facebook, and then comment in as things were happening, and it's basically a magic show with a lot of messaging about having good character. And I know a number of the schools in the district other PTAs are going to be having that same show as well, a few others.
Wow.
So if that comes through your PTA, definitely make sure you attend. We've seen that show probably 5 times and have the DVDs, and it's really funny.
Nice.
And then also a thank you to all I think most of the PTAs, if not all of them, are offering directory spot for free this year. And typically that requires a PTA membership. But because of the increased constraints this year due to COVID, they've offered that for free. And that's why the memberships are down, because people that would be the motivation to join because you didn't get it unless you joined. So if you are able to join, that would be really helpful for all of the PTAs.
Okay, thank you very much. I would only note in closing that I did attend the Churchill PTA meeting, and I always appreciate the invitation to sit with those fine folks. My summary of that meeting is in a board report that is posted to the agenda. And a number of the items that we heard about other PTA meetings were also addressed there for a little more detail. And for their full agenda, you can go to the board report. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right. Public participation. Members of the public who wish to address the board should check in with Mrs. Moak, the board recording secretary. Speakers are asked to maintain respectful decorum and limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Mrs. Moak, is there anyone who would like to make public comment this evening? Ms. Moak is shaking her head no. So thank you very much, Ms. Moak. All right, we will then move into our presentations. And Melissa, we in fact do have a very special presentation by a very special member of the district team.
We do, as you're aware, every year Erica does a presentation on her communications and community engagement plan. And I know she's got a few new pieces in there this year. So
Well,
welcome.
we've been quite busy, but as I do every year, as Melissa said, I'm happy to present about communications and community engagement in District 41. Believe it or not, this is my 7th school year in the district. I'm honored to lead this work. I'm going to start this presentation a little differently than I have done in the past. I want to share some background with all of you. Maybe I should wait for the presentation to get up on the screen first. Prior to coming to District 41, I worked in higher education for 15 years. I've managed communications for a fatal fraternity fire, resulting in the death of my own student worker. I also managed the communications for suicide of a top administrator, who is also a friend. Managed communications for faculty strike at a state university and several scandals. That's always fun. Glad that doesn't happen here. I also have a background in master's degree in crisis communications, but never in my life did I think we would be faced with communicating a worldwide pandemic. Not only did my family and I have COVID this summer, I have lost 2 close family members to this virus. It's unbelievable. Through it all, I can't think of anywhere else I would rather be than in this district. I'm thankful for the amazing, talented, and smart team that I work with every day. It takes all of us to do this work and to support each other. I'm incredibly proud and honored of the collaboration and the work that takes place that allows for the strong communications and engagement in this district. It's obviously gets me emotional. It's been a long 2 years. I have a lot to share with you in this presentation about how we move through the challenges of the year and the opening of the school year in our full remote model. Go ahead to the, oh, yep, stay here. Tonight, I will share a summary of the 2019-2020 school year. We'll talk about the COVID shutdown of last spring, go through how we manage the summer months differently. And finally, I'll talk about this school year and what is happening in communications now and moving forward through the rest of the school year. Every year we create a district theme. Last year it was District for Everyone, Choose to Include, as we were focused on the district and inclusion across the district for everyone. Go ahead. It's hard to believe that it was just last year we were welcoming Dr. Kaskowski and cutting a ribbon to celebrate the completion of our referendum construction. Life in our schools were electric and vibrant. Learning was all around us in classrooms, outside of classrooms, engaging PBLs. It was all back when things felt like what we used to call normal. We were holding in-person board engagement events and attending community and school celebrations. PTAs were collaborating on school projects. We had such momentum going on in the schools. We were having what I would say was one of the best years ever. And next slide. Then March hit. We were challenged with how to communicate about a pandemic and the closure of the schools in short notice. It was shocking to all of us. We were challenged by the unknown. We communicated what we could, but also knowing that it would change and that we would need to communicate again. The district is and was thankful for the understanding of the District 41 community overall. Our main goal is to keep the community informed and engaged. We sent over 40 COVID-related communications, not just from the district. That's just from the district. Also, there were more from schools and principals directly. We quickly produced videos featuring administrators, board members, and teachers to help connect us with staff, students, and families. We held virtual events like Spirit Days, Read Alouds, and Hadley Drive-Through Graduation, just to name a few. Mike, if you could go through just the next 3 slides pretty quickly. These are just examples of those events. The Read Alouds, and then our graduation. In addition, we had students making cards for seniors, engaging in community service, and participating in the Chamber Painted Pots program, which you can still see the pots around town in Glen Ellyn. What? Oh, yes. E-learning was then coming to a close, but the district was just beginning the next school year. We committed to keeping the communications and engagement going like never before during the summer months. Go ahead. The new theme emerged, Stronger Together. This theme felt natural and represented how we were all coming together to keep learning going for our students. We celebrated the first day of school opening in the full remote model. It's not what anyone wanted, but we made it as fun and celebratory as possible. We put social media campaigns out for the first day. D41 Strong Message was there, and we had a lot of photo sharing. Go ahead. And now here we are, and we are planning the communication of another change. We are planning to transition to some in-person learning through the blended AM/PM model for those who choose it. While we're going through this change of learning model, it's like we're starting the year again. We are having a second first day of school, both for those who are staying in remote and those who have chosen the in-person learning option. Through this transition and throughout the school year, we will continue to keep the District 41 community engaged and informed. We will collaborate with the community, and we will provide opportunities for feedback. To highlight a few ways we'll keep the community engaged, we will continue with those communications, the regular communications like the district digest and messages from the superintendent and the board members. We will continue with the virtual and now some in-person events when possible. We will use the new text message option when we have timely information, and we will work to keep providing parent programming and resources. In addition, we will collaborate in new ways. We are working with the community-based Pandemic Response Advisory Team, which we call PRAT. We're engaging with our partners like the PTA, Community Outreach, the D41 Kids Foundation, Glenbard Parent Series, Supplies for Success, and many more. We'll expand board and superintendent engagement out in the community by attending events that are happening in person, such as Rotary and Chamber.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I'm looking at the Zoom and the slides aren't advancing on the Zoom.
Oh,
Thank you for letting us know.
No, they're not. Sorry, I'm looking at it here. I just followed along.
oh,
That's what I was,
I did
sorry,
go- I
I
did
thought
go
it
on
was
your
just
time.
me because it
Okay.
looked like you were seeing them, but yeah. Sorry.
No, thank you. We'll just take a quick pause.
Yeah, because you mentioned rock the socks in your slides, and that's very important.
Didn't want to
You
miss
know
that.
what, Mike, I think the PowerPoint was shared, but not
They
the
got stayed
present.
stuck on that slide.
Sorry to interrupt, Erica.
No, that's just fine. We can
Scared.
start again on slide 14, Mike, when you get there.
There we go. Thank
There we
you.
go. We're back.
oh.
Well done.
You could go back one slide. to goal 2. Okay, I'll just highlight again because I think it's so important to view this slide and to see all the things that we're doing to collaborate. But I wanted just to highlight, since we're back at this slide, the Pandemic Response Advisory Team and the subcommittees that are working with that team. They have been instrumental in moving forward, and they're working now with me in the communications. And so just quick thank you, and we appreciate that so much. Go ahead in the next slide. We want to continue to provide opportunities for feedback. The surveys that we do on an annual basis will not be discontinued because of the pandemic. We'll bring back listening sessions that are topic-based and timely. In the past, you may remember we held these to bring about conversation and gather feedback about facilities, kindergarten, inclusion, just to name a few. We've done quite a few of those. In addition, coffee and conversations with board members in person and virtually. The board members have expressed an interest in continuing to engage and maybe starting to do some more in-person engagement as well. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay. Well, what's happening right now is that we are focused on keeping strong regular communications engagement going in these new and challenging times and bringing some back that we have not been able to do in several months. We are focused on the transition of in-person learning for students and staff. And we want to continue bringing new communications like the text messaging for faster formatting and a quicker way to communicate with the community. It's been a busy time in the communications office, but I hope we have made a positive impact through all of the change and uncertainty. I'd love to take your questions.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, let's see if we have some questions or comments for Erica. Guillermo, do you have any questions for Erica? And Mike, you can stop sharing the screen if there you go. Thank you. Guillermo, any questions?
No, thank you, Erica. Great presentation. I love all the details, especially the last 4 slides are very informational. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you so much. Ted, any questions for Erica?
So I messed up and I didn't do the read along thing last spring. I'm wondering if we might be
You
doing
didn't
that
mess up.
again.
No one would have known. So.
Yeah, well, no, I was wondering if maybe there'd be an opportunity to do that again.
Sure.
I have an
think we
idea
will.
for that, Ted.
Yeah?
I'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
So what happens when you become a master
Absolutely.
board member?
That'd be great.
You get these kind of ideas. Bruce, any questions for Erica?
No, just a reminder that, we took a vote to not look at the Human X data. And I really think that that's part of the communication plan. I know it's not Erica's fault, but I think the feedback from the open and honest feedback from
That was school.
our customers, which are parents, staff, and the general public, is important. I wish we had voted to do that. Just a reminder that I think we should be as open and transparent as possible as a board.
Bruce, I just wanted to, it wasn't the Human X, that's only for staff. It was called the School Perception Satisfaction Survey.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification, Erica. Julie, any questions for Erica?
Are you feeling okay? Are you okay?
I cannot breathe very well.
I didn't know if it was the mask or if it was because you had COVID.
No, well, there are lingering effects for sure.
Okay. But mostly okay?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I'm
Good.
just fine. Thank you.
Very good. Good.
We are all just fine.
Thanks for the show of concern, Ms.
Of
Hill.
course.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Jessica, any questions for Erica?
A couple. First, I'm so sorry for your loss. I had no
Oh,
idea.
no, that's okay.
And
So not okay.
glad you're feeling better, if not 100%. It's just mind-boggling, the dedication that you've shown throughout all of this, which is stressful, and I don't even have to do anything important. So
No, thank you. You're
yeah,
a great partner.
big kudos to you. For the Human X, the survey just was completed. When abouts do we get the results? Is that presented to us?
I think it's fairly soon. I will defer to Marcy on, she administers that survey with Human X, and they're pretty quick with their turnaround. So, Marcy?
Oh, yeah.
They will probably have it to us next month. To present to you next month. It closed last week, so they will get it to us in a few weeks, and then we'll have it for you.
Okay. And And then do you have like a proposed schedule, or is there a time when we as a board are going to talk about like what kinds of, I know I asked a question about topics for the
Mhm.
listening sessions. Is that something that you'll just decide upon, or should we discuss it as a board as if is tonight or in the future? I think I'm looking at Bob.
Yeah, no,
In the past, what has happened is things bubble up and there's a natural moment for the listening sessions to occur in the district. And so they've kind of happened organically
Mhm.
in the past, but we have kind of tried to look for 3 opportunities a year to be able to do that. I think this year we're just getting back into, transitioning into this new model. So there could be some opportunity for a listening session related to the new models of learning that we've never experienced before and getting feedback that way. So you'll recall the learning sessions are a presentation by a topic expert. Then we break up into groups, which you can do virtually as well if we needed to do it virtually. And then what happens is board members are a part of those groups, one board member each group typically, and then they listen to some feedback from the community. And it's been amazing information that we have used moving forward and creating plans for the district.
Jess, I think your interest might be in seeing whether there would be topics that the board would like to recommend to the district as possible.
I
Learning
guess,
se-
yeah, right. If 3 is our target, that's limited. That's a limited number.
It's
So-
just what we've been what
But yeah.
has naturally happened in the past. It's been about 3 a school year.
So we just might want to prioritize, and I can totally understand kind of putting this on the back burner because you're
Mhm.
basically reopening the school now. But you're right. I think people are probably going to want to talk about what's going on in schools right now, just as a result of
Mhm.
COVID. So
Yeah.
when I'm game whenever that can
Okay.
happen.
Yeah, and we can talk about if it makes sense to do it virtually because Google Classroom and Zoom can both handle the breakout sessions. So, we're doing something hybrid, which is a little bit more complicated, but we can work that out.
Yeah, I definitely think more people are going to be able to participate if it's
Mhm.
remote because you take out childcare and you take out fears
And
and
in all honesty, I think we've all learned to do this
Yeah.
in a remote environment. We've all
Yeah.
done the Zoom breakouts. We've all done the Zoom meetings, and we're kind of all gotten our hands around it. We understand what we're doing, and it can be navigated successfully by a number of people.
yeah.
Erica, did you have a tentative, and I might have missed it, a tentative date for when a first one might occur? Was the idea to do one in the fall, one in the early spring, late spring? Is that sort of it?
Typically, they have kind of fallen that way where we have that something bubbles up kind of at the beginning of the year and then we kind of get through the holiday and then we get, we do something around January, February, and then something toward the end of the school year. So that's
Okay.
how it has worked in the past. Obviously, we're in a different time. And so there's a lot going on in the district.
Yeah.
We're really focused on communicating about the transition right now. I think once we get kids back in school, there'll be a natural opportunity to be able to do a listening session at that time. But I would defer to Dr. Kiskowski on that.
Okay. Okay. Let's see how the issues that bubble up that you definitely want to address, and then we'll allow the board to suggest some topics if you have that opportunity, if that space is provided. Okay? Yeah,
That
thanks.
sounds great.
Melissa, did you have a
I
comment?
had a comment, not a question for Erica. I think what people don't get to see, this is hard to talk with, is, and I can't quite figure out how between Erica and Nancy and Ken, they do this, but our meetings are typically lots of people giving lots of input on lots of things every single time we meet. And somehow they turn that into timelines so that nothing falls through the cracks, that we don't forget to circle back to things that we haven't quite finished, and put it out in a communication that makes sense to people. So, that's the part that people don't get to see. And because we can't necessarily put everybody in the room together as often as we would like, we could fill up a whiteboard, the size of the one in the presentation room. And we've tried to, but we've had to just work differently. But still, that's kind of the backbone of double and triple checking things um, just to keep us all on track. So, the communication piece, number one, helps us set our timelines, but also helps us make sure that none of the details fall through the cracks. So it's just been interesting to sit back and watch, because I think I come up with 10 new ideas every single day and then forget to ever come back to probably 9 of them. And between Erica and Ken, they've already started working on something or figuring out how they can make that fit into something that we already said we were going to do. So the communication piece has just been more than what anybody could ever know and realize, and pulling kind of all the details and facts out of all the conversations and meetings that we've had on everything. So not only does it keep the public informed, it kind of keeps us on track as well. So thank you. I don't know how you guys have done it, especially because everybody's handing you stuff virtually, and so trying to figure out how to make all those pieces fit. I'm not sure how that all works, but I think the communication that's gone out has been incredible, and a high amount of it, and getting it read at the right time by the right people, trying different things to say, okay, let's try graphics instead, because people aren't reading the details. And then when we do something shorter, then we hear from people that they want all the details. And so trying to find that middle ground, and now we've started doing it both ways. And so I don't think people necessarily have the full understanding of how communication has changed, and trying to get people what they need. I mean, when we had the questions 2020 email line open, I mean, that was an 18-hour-a-day endeavor trying to stay on top of those, but I'm not aware of anybody else, any other district that did that, and literally gave personal information or responses, not information, personal responses to almost all of them.
Well,
So
kudos go to you, because as a superintendent, I've never seen someone answer so many emails personally and reach out personally as a superintendent. So Dr. Kaskowski has been an amazing partner and is willing to connect with people on a one-on-one basis, which helps a lot, makes my job a lot easier. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but you guys have kept me focused, as difficult as that is. I know how difficult it is, but the reminders of, hey, this is an important one, make sure you go back to it, or we said we wanted to do this. And, I just don't think people get the inside view of what that looks like. And it's a shame. I think, if we were open the way we typically are, we'd love to invite people in for some of those meetings, but that's not how it works during this time. But it really has been really interesting and often fun to see how these ideas that everybody's throwing out turn into a magazine or turn into this that gets sent out. And so thank you. I know it's not been easy, because we've been revising things, and just when they think it's done, it's like, no, don't send it yet. So it's been an incredible amount of work, and I appreciate it. And I hope everybody else in the community appreciates it too.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Melissa.
I have one additional question, actually.
You got
Are we
it.
doing
You
a second?
Yeah, go ahead,
Jay
Chris,
will
you're
wait.
fine.
Sorry, I'm
He's
sorry.
patient.
I defer to the lady on my right.
I forget, it might have been in there, because I wasn't looking at the presentation the whole time, but do we usually include something about engagement with staff? And if not, is that, I don't know even if that's appropriate.
There's
but
a whole other area that it could be a complete different presentation in collaboration with Marcy to talk about staff engagement as well. And so this presentation really talks about community engagement,
Okay.
but that there is a whole nother set of goals and ways that we reach out and engage with staff. And so that wasn't a part of the presentation this time.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
Yes. I know they sometimes invite us to things, but yeah. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Mr. Lobach, you are up.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Earl.
for your patience.
It was good to hold that in for a while.
Erica, first, let me also thank you for your indispensable guidance on the occasions in which I have put together a president's letter that has gone out to the community. You're a critical person for me to check in with, and you always offer wise feedback and guidance on those letters. I feel much better putting my name on them and sending them out after I've spoken with you. So
you.
thank you for that. So lastly, all this communications, one thing I wonder that would help you feel even better about the effectiveness of the work that you're doing. Do you feel like you're getting, are there better ways to provide feedback to you? I mean, I know there, in terms of the communication, and I know we get survey data that tells us that people are looking here, they're looking there, they like the emails, but I'm just curious, have you thought about what would even be a better way to know whether or not, boy, we really hit that communications
Sure.
accurately?
The way I tend to get that feedback is through parent groups and community groups that I'm a part of already. So for example, like PTA Council, I'll even bring something ahead of time. Back when we were in person, this happened more often, but when we weren't in such a rush. But I would bring a communication or an idea ahead of time and we would talk about it and they would give me a variety of perspectives because all schools were represented at that table. Also, I'm a member of the Rotary Club, so I also can talk with folks who are in the district who don't have children and who are maybe retired and have a different perspective about finances or anything else. And so although I enjoy those meetings because I think the people are great, I'm also using them for professional purpose. And that is really invaluable information through that. And I know that you all provide feedback and I welcome that always.
Okay, well,
That's
good.
it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, then we will,
Okay.
I'll let you back away from the podium.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
And we will move to our discussion items. We have a couple. Dr. Kiskowski, you will introduce Mr. DePorter.
Sure, Eric is out there in Zoom, so I'm going to turn it over for three relatively quick items on for discussion.
Okay, yeah, the first one on the agenda tonight is to have a quick discussion regarding busing and specifically with the status of our contract with both partners we use, First Student and Hopewell. If you recall, in the spring, we signed a contract amendment when closure put us into remote learning, which called for some payments to our busing partners through the end of the school year. Generally, those were approximately 40% of our monthly expenses. The intent there was to basically keep the bus depot, which serves our district, viable. They needed to have individuals on site maintaining the fleet as well as basically running that location. So that was the amendment we had signed back in the spring. It did sunset at the end of the 1920 school year. So as we enter the 2021 school year, we now are really operating under our existing contract, which does not have a provision for payment related to at-home learning like we're dealing with right now. So the intent tonight is just to update the board. We have been in discussions with both First Student and Hopewell about signing a similar contract amendment to the one we did in the spring, which would call for financing to really keep that depot up and running and available. And as you all know, as we're feverishly getting ready for bus routes and return to our blended model here in a few weeks, they've been a great partner for us. We've had good luck getting routes set up, and we're working towards getting all that information ready. So that's kind of the background of what is going on. The reason I had it added to the agenda tonight for discussion was just to update the board and let you know where we are in the process. The amendments have been through legal review. At this point, we're just looking for the final dollars that would be added in there that would represent the costs of maintaining the bus depot while we've been in remote. So my intention is to bring those contract amendments to the board for action at our next business meeting at the end of October. Happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Let's see if there are any questions. Julie, you have any questions on that?
No
amendment?
question.
Jason?
So are we set with our busing services for return to school 15th, 19th, 4th?
They tell me we are. So I've asked that question repeatedly. They said they have the capacity, they have the buses, they have the drivers. The drivers currently are furloughed because they've not been running routes for the high school or for District 41. I believe some of their staff has returned as Queen Bee 16 and Marquardt 15 have kind of started to ramp up their efforts. But yeah, I guess the direct answer is I've been told they will have the capacity to meet our needs.
Okay.
Great. Bruce, do you have any questions about the amended transportation agreement for Eric?
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. Ted, any questions for Mr. DePorter?
So following up on Mr. Lobach's question, will there be another amendment required once we go to the blended model, since there's additional services that we're going to need?
Good question. The way it's being written this go around as compared to the spring is it is a little more involved. It's going to identify the cost the district would be in line to pay under both remote learning, the hybrid blended model, and full return to normal school. As it stands right now, when we come back into our blended model where we have half day, A/B schedules, we're basically going to be running twice the routes that we typically would run, and we pay per route. So the expectation is our busing costs will be double what they typically would be during the period we're in a blended model. And it is.
I expect that.
Yeah, to expand.
I was just wondering.
Sorry, Ted.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The challenges with Zoom. Yeah, to expand on it, it's going to be written in a manner that can address basically any scenario that anybody can envision happening for the rest of this school year. So we don't need to come back to the board for a second time. So it's going to be remote learning that we're in right now, hybrid blended, which we're going into in a couple of weeks. And then there's also an opportunity for there to be an 80% pay rate, which would be where if we return to in-person and we've got their bus drivers actively employed and running routes, and then something happens with the positivity rate, or for some reason we're forced to go back into remote learning, there will be a provision that identifies the costs that the district would have to pay. And generally that's going to be where we'd be at around 80%. Because in that scenario, bus drivers would still be actively employed. So those partners would have to pay those bus drivers, and that's why they want that 80% provision in there. In reality, I don't envision us being at an 80% pay rate for anywhere longer than at worst 2 weeks, because that would be the time basically where we would, if we are forced to go into a remote learning environment again, those partners would then know they need to get the wheels turning to furlough those drivers. That would be the expectation. So hope that makes sense on kind of how they've crafted this document. And it goes without saying, this has been at the direction of legal counsel. It's very similar to what other districts around DuPage and the Collier counties are going through right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Julie, any questions for Eric? No. Thank you. Guillermo, any questions for Mr. DePorter?
No, thank you, Eric.
Thank you. And Jessica, any questions on the amended transportation?
Yeah, following up on Ted's question, and you probably thought of this, but what would happen in the event that, say, one school would be quarantined, and so it would just be a portion of our busing? Would that fall to the 80%?
I think in that case, we'd be paying for routes ran. So we'd be slightly under 200%, if that makes sense. So we have 5 buildings running buses. If one of them goes down, in theory, if each one's representing 40%, we'd be down 40%. So yeah, we wouldn't go to 80% in that scenario because they would not furlough drivers. I would not expect them to do that. So it'd still be
like 160%. Is that how we're
yeah,
doing
pretty
that?
much 160 if each school is 20% times 2. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm tracking that. Where would we be on the bus monitor situation? Is that related to this? Is that in the contract at all? Or?
Yeah, they were not able to fill those. So we've adjusted our self-certification process in the morning so that we're doing it here.
So kids will get on the bus regardless of what happens?
sounds like they will, depending on how parents send their kids out the door.
Mhm.
It does seem like with the responsibility is going to be, if I have this right, would
Mhm.
be on the parents to make sure that no one gets on the bus that wouldn't meet the self-certification. But to your point, Jessica, I don't think anybody then under this scenario is going to take a temperature check or ask questions.
No, not before getting on the bus. So, and that's consistent with what the districts around us are doing.
Okay.
So
They're
that's-
doing it on site. You know, it's an expectation that it be done at home prior, but the districts around us are doing the check once kids get to school. So once you have your list, whatever process you're using, when you determine who is not self-certified, they're doing it at the school level.
Okay. And I mean, we're still a few weeks out. Like, I guess, I don't know, like the situation keeps changing, but like, it seems like maybe there's more people that might be comfortable doing that job, more people who might be out of work. So I guess, is it time to abandon that? Or like, I don't know how, like, I don't know how much time has passed between the time when they abandoned that and when, you know, because it wasn't working, and now, and if
Mhm.
now, because obviously it's,
Yeah, I can
more
tell you that
ideal.
no one that I'm aware of is doing that. I
Yeah.
think, you know, it puts the onus back on the parent that if your child is sick, don't put them on the bus and don't send them to school. But it's just a step in this that we can control once we get them to us, that they either have self-certified or we do that before they enter the building. But I'm not aware of anybody that's running a process that they do it before kids get on the bus,
Okay, so no temperature checks
before getting on the
before getting
bus.
on the bus.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to be real clear, because I think the message has been different at different times, so we want.
Yeah, we were hoping that they might be able to fill those, but, you know, they weren't.
Okay, we good? Yes. All right, Eric, you also have two other items you want to summarize?
Yeah, moving right along. The next agenda item is fund transfers. This is an annual thing that we do where the budget includes a transfer out of the education fund into the operations and maintenance fund, and from the operations and maintenance fund into the capital projects fund. That is done because you cannot levy for funds in the capital projects fund, so we need to transfer dollars out of another fund. It is absolutely a product of school finance. It's the way that the funds are maintained in their own silos. So the process, and we follow this each year, is to have a public hearing. So we will publish a notice of a public hearing prior to the October 26th meeting, in which we will ask the board to approve these transfers. Very straightforward, common practice across school districts, but it is a requirement that the board be notified, the public be notified via that notice. We will have a public hearing at the beginning of the next meeting, and then we will request action for the transfer.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Let's go around real quickly. Ted, any questions about the fund transfers?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Nope, thanks.
Guillermo?
No, thank my question was addressed before the meeting. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Bruce, any questions for Eric on this?
Just for history for the public to know, was this a result of us adding the classrooms back, the additions to Lincoln and Churchill, et cetera?
No, this goes to fund our summer capital projects. So the work on, like, for instance, that happened this past summer, you know, we pay for after July 1st. So this would be work related to the roofing project we just completed, the LMC work at Benjamin Franklin, you know, that work that was completed this past summer as part of the 5-year capital plan. We paid for it in the 2021 budget, which is kind of odd to think that way, but it's approved back in the fall of 2019 for summer 2020 work, and then paid out of the 2021 budget, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Have we paid off the additions?
No, we took a 15-year note in 2014. That'll take us to 2029. So that is a non-callable debt certificate. So we are just basically, we have to pay that per the amortization schedule until it expires.
But that's not a part of this at all, right? When do we approve that at a different time of year? I forget.
Well, that's part of the budget. We budget
Okay.
for those lease payments or debt payments in in the bond fund. So,
Okay, great, thanks.
yeah.
Jess, any questions about the fund
No,
transfer? I should
No, I'm good.
get warmer.
Cold in here.
Yeah, I see that. You didn't want- Jason, any questions?
No, thanks, Eric.
Okay. And Eric, you have one final topic, the
Yes.
crossing guards.
Yeah. Last topic is just in regards to crossing guards. As we go into the blended model, we're going to have obviously the 8:30 to 11 and then 1 to 3:30 shifts. Well, in the middle of the day, typically in a normal school year, we do not have crossing guards working the middle of the day. They typically do 2 shifts, AM, in the morning, and PM when school lets out in the afternoon. So now that we're going to be in basically an AB model with a split opening in the middle, we're going to need 4 shifts of crossing guards. Importantly to note, the village of Glen Ellyn typically covers the cost of crossing guards. As a result of their budget being finalized before knowing that we would have this need, they don't have the capacity to cover this cost. So it is being pushed to the district. The intent tonight is just to update the board on that cost. The not to exceed number that was provided to us by Deputy Chief Barva was $31,000. Of note, that would have been for the full school year. So it would actually end up being a little bit less than that, since we're not going to be, obviously 10 months will be more like 8 months of having this need if we continue throughout the end of the school year in this hybrid model. So the way it's written in this board report tonight is just to inform the board that we will seek approval at the next meeting, October 26th, to basically expend up to $31,000 to cover this additional cost for crossing guards, which it is absolutely necessary. It's a middle of the day thing, and it is understandable that the village did not have this budgeted because they're like any other municipality dealing with the COVID financing crunch. Happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Guillermo, any questions on the crossing guard? Fine, there you
Thank you, Bob.
go. Okay, thank you. Good. Julie, any questions for Mr. DePorter?
No, thanks.
Ted, any questions? Nope. Bruce, any questions for Eric on this?
No.
Thank you very much. Jess?
I already asked my question, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Lowa?
Just for the second clarity. So this 31,000, this is for the midday crossing guards?
Yeah, it's to go from 2 shifts to 4 shifts. So those
Right.
extra 2 shifts will be at 11 and basically 1, after dismissal at 11 and before start at 1.
So is the village still covering the cost for the, I'm gonna say 8:30 and 3:30?
Yes.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
And so that leads my second question. So we'd expect that same to continue next school year as well.
Yes.
correct. Yeah, this should be just a this school year expense provided COVID goes away and we don't need this next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. DePorter, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
I guess I have one question.
Oh,
sorry.
wait a
You're
minute,
not
don't
off
go
the
away yet.
hook, Eric.
Just got a
So
question.
is the reason that they cover it is because they consider a crossing guard public safety?
I think that's a good guess. I've never been told exactly why they do. I can tell you there's 5 guards. I think that I've always understood that the local police force or county department force has covered this because it's a streets issue. My previous district, it was the same thing. Actually, Cook County covered the cost of crossing guards. So it's very typical for the village or the municipality to cover that cost. This is just a unique year, and it was one where they had no reason to budget for this. And now it's one of those expenses they feel that they can't cover.
And so, but we don't have this budgeted either, right?
That's correct. So that's why it's actually coming to the board for approval to expend those dollars. That's how we're going to word it.
Okay. And so we're going to dip into savings, so to speak, to pay for this?
Yeah, it'll basically be, the board will approve to spend out of a purchase service account to pay for this, even though it's an unbudgeted expense.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, we will move on to a couple of action items. We'll start with the consent agenda. Are there any items board members would like to be removed from the consent agenda to be considered separately? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes employment recommendations, resignations and retirement, the school district payment order and FOIA report of August 19th to September 22nd, 2020, the August 2020 financial reports, and the open and closed session board meeting minutes of September 14th, 2020 as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Moak, roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. Our second item is the authorization to prepare the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget. May I have a motion to approve the resolution directing the superintendent to prepare the budget for the fiscal year 2021-2022 as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you very much. Mrs. Moak, roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. And then the third and final item is the contract for health aides. May I have a motion to authorize Marcy Conlon, the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, to enter into a professional service contract with Sunbelt Staffing at a cost of approximately $222,072.85 for the time period of October 14th, 2020 to May 28th, 2021, funded from the district budget contract services special education account.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Estes, I think, was the second. Any discussion, please?
Yeah, I think if Melissa could just for the record, just give a brief update as to what these
Health-
additional health aides are going to be doing. So I think it's important for the public to
Right.
have an understanding of that.
Right, so there will be an additional health assistant in every building. They will be assigned to the quarantine room. So as you're aware, school districts are now required to have one nurse's office open for all the kind of routine nursing care and one additional space that's open for quarantine and isolation. So when kids or staff are at work and they appear to be symptomatic, that's where kids will go until they're picked up. The health assistant will man that office. They will, when they arrive in the morning, because their start time is going to be 7:30, I believe. Marcy, correct me on that. They will be working with our self-certification process to get some of those reports pulled and kind of kick off that process in the morning. And helping the nurse as needed. But they will be mainly staffing and handling symptomatic issues and also working with the health department for contact tracing, reporting and receiving information from them, really whatever it is that we need for them to do related to COVID.
And then what's the I guess I don't know what the right terminology is, just because it's not my, maybe Mark can help me out. The position levels, I mean, is it RN or something of that
So
nature?
they're a certified
Marcy,
nurse
do you want to talk
assistant.
about their qualifications?
They're a certified
Nursing
nurse
assistant?
assistant.
Is that what?
Yes.
Certified?
Thank you. Qualifications.
So
that
they
was
have
it.
to work
There
under
you
an
go.
RN,
Thank
so they will work under our RNs in the school office, health offices.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Okay, very good. Mrs. Milk, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, board. Any board governance learning together, other items? Very good. We'll move on to announcement for upcoming meetings. Tuesday, October the 13th, Tuesday,
Mhm.
note that, October the 13th, 7 PM, regular board workshop meeting. And then Monday, 26th, October the 26th at 7 PM, a regular board meeting. Are there any items board members wish to suggest for a future meeting?
Go ahead, Julie.
Just the,
Julie?
make sure we get the ISB resolution discussion. in there.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it already is, but
Okay, we will definitely, we can talk about that.
I think that,
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
I was just, I was just going to say the assembly is on Saturday, November 14th.
14th.
I have terrible handwriting. Saturday, November 14th. So we need the decision before then. But it's not necessary to have it like on that October 21st meeting. That won't matter.
Okay, well, we'll figure that out. We've got
Great,
some
thank you.
calendar dates. Thank you, Julie. Okay,
I have one more.
please, Jason.
I know that you mentioned that as to, the special ed services, how they're being provided, that it had to come from Laurel. That might not be a bad idea to have Laurel come in and just give an update or via Zoom, as to how those services are going to be provided when we go hybrid, when we have different platforms, what have you. So there is an understanding.
I already emailed her. So, yep, I'll ask her to put together a little update for the board and just talk through how the shift will be handled and
I know that there's a lot of questions out there, so that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Jess?
Do we want to have a board discussion about listening session topics? Or do we want to do it?
So
I think having them is a good idea. How did they come up before? Was it more of organic as to these would be good things to have? I'm just really trying to remember, but having them is obviously.
Maybe like a plan A if nothing bubbles up. Or
I'm-
like, yeah. I
Well,
guess-
board, are you interested in having, we heard Erica talk about looking for 3, and you seem to have at least 2 that you were certain would be the right thing to do. So a third one might be open for some suggestions. Would you, Jessica, suggesting that we could have a discussion at a board meeting about possible topics for probably a late spring? I'm thinking, I don't know, you can adjust the schedule to talk about a possible additional listening session. Is that something that board members?
Is that something that the board should be doing, or is that Erica's domain, or who decides that?
So I think these
I
would
don't
be,
want to trample on,
I think properly, Erica, they would be making suggestions to you and allow,
The superintendent and I would share that something was bubbling up or that we wanted to present some plans or ideas related to a topic.
Mhm.
And then the board usually said, yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, but of course, if you have something that you're hearing in the community that's bubbling up or that you would like to explore or we need feedback about, then please suggest that to us. That'd be great.
so perhaps it isn't something that actually requires a board discussion to get consensus around.
I don't think
You're suggesting just sending, if there are interesting topics, you would prefer just allow board members individually to suggest and then let you.
That's how we've done it in the past. I don't think we've ever had a board discussion
Okay.
about it or consensus about it that I can recall.
Great, and I'd like to hold or keep this on the radar. As the year progresses, I think we need to see where Illinois is in the state of, are we moving towards phase 5? How are we projecting things to look for next year? I think if we don't have those answers at that point in time, that will be a really timely topic. And we have said, that we would do that, number one, through the board workshop meeting, that, if the data is moving in the right direction, the first kind of hurdle was to start back for in-person on our blended model. I think the next conversation needs to be, where do we go next in terms of where Illinois is at and what could potentially next school year look like and start like, it's very early to have those conversations now, but there will be a point in time when I think that's important to have.
Okay. Jess, how are you reacting?
That's fine.
Bo?
Yeah,
Are
that's
you
fine.
comfortable? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Erica. Okay, the board has a need to adjourn to closed session and will not be taking any action when we return. May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session to confidentially discuss Section 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee to determine its validity. 2C2 pertaining to collective negotiations matters, and 2C8 pertaining to measures to respond to dangers to the safety of students, staff, and the public. And Section 2C11 litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the school board has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the school board finds that an action is probable or imminent in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Bruce. Any,
I thought you were pointing to me, Bob.
we got a lot of it, a lot of seconds there. Any discussion? Mrs. Milk, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you very much.